The legend of the shadow was not just a story to scare. It was a puzzle that yearned to be solved. And that night, the secrets of Rivertown High School were about to be exposed. In the small town of Rivertown, an abandoned high school is the source of a chilling urban legend about a serial killer known as the Shadow. Determined to uncover the truth, investigative journalist Emily teams up with skeptical photographer Mark and curious local historian Jessica. Together, they spend a night in the eerie, dilapidated building, discovering old diaries and film reels that hint at the horrifying past events. As they delve deeper, they encounter unsettling phenomena and increasingly feel the presence of the shadow. Their investigation leads them to a hidden altar in the school's basement, tied to a ritual performed by the killer. By destroying the altar, they manage to dispel the malevolent entity haunting the school. Although the experience leaves them shaken, they gain a sense of closure, knowing they have uncovered the truth and brought peace to the tormented spirits of Rivertown.
The small town of Rivertown always kept its secrets. Among the darkest was the legend of the abandoned high school. Built in the late 19th century, the school had been a symbol of pride and education until, in the mid-'80s, a series of brutal murders turned its classrooms into chambers of horror. The locals spoke of a man known only as the Shadow, who lured his victims into the building after dark. Never caught, he became an almost mythical figure. A story used to scare disobedient children. However, for me, an investigative journalist eager for true and shocking stories, the legend was a golden opportunity to uncover the truth behind the mystery. I wasn't alone in my quest. With me were Mark, a skeptical photographer who didn't believe in ghosts or urban legends, and Jessica, a local historian fascinated by the secrets of the past. Together, we formed a team determined to discover what really happened at Rivertown High School. With our backpacks loaded with equipment and our minds prepared for the unexpected, we headed to the school on a cold October night. The broken windows and decaying facade of the building stood as a silent testament to years of abandonment. But for us, the real story waited to be revealed within those dark walls. The legend of the Shadow always hung over Rivertown like a dark cloud. I first heard the stories from an old librarian, whose voice trembled as they spoke of the events that stained the school's reputation. His words, filled with fear and reverence, lingered in my mind like a flame in the darkness. Determined to uncover the truth, I paid a visit to the local library, where I delved into the dusty archives detailing the gruesome events. "We need to investigate this," I told Mark and Jessica one rainy night at the local cafe. "The story is real, or at least based on real events. There's something deeper here."
You really believe this, Anne? A ghostly serial killer haunting a school? Sounds like something out of a cheap horror movie.
Maybe, but there are records of missing people, witnesses who swear they saw strange things. If there's any truth to it, we should investigate.
All right, let's see where this goes, but don't expect me to run at the first sign of a ghost.
Prepared with flashlights, cameras, and recording equipment, we headed to the school on a moonless night. The abandoned building loomed before us like a sleeping monster. The windows were broken, and the main door, though sealed for years, seemed to invite us in. "Do you feel that?" I asked as I stepped on the ground covered in dry leaves. "It's like the air is heavy, dense."
Probably mold, I muttered, adjusting the camera. Let's start exploring before I regret this.
Inside the school, the silence was almost palpable. The hallways were filled with debris, scattered papers, and broken furniture. Every step we took echoed through the walls, creating a symphony of unsettling sound. Leading the way to the school's library, where the first murders supposedly occurred, I said, "According to the legends, this is where it all started. The Shadow would hide among the shelves, waiting for his victim."
I began taking pictures, capturing the decay of the place. Nothing unusual yet, just an old abandoned school.
Then I found something that caught my attention, an old diary hidden among the dusty books. "Look at this," I said, opening the yellowed pages. "It seems to belong to one of the students. This could be our first clue."
As Emily read aloud, the words painted a disturbing picture, fear and dread. The diary detailed the last weeks of a student's life, describing encounters with a shadowy figure in the hallways. Each entry heightened the tension, culminating in a final night when the student vanished without a trace. "We need more time here," Emily said, closing the diary carefully. "There's more to this. We need to find more diaries, more stories."
I agree, said Jessica. We should spend the night here and see what we find.
With a mix of excitement and apprehension, we prepared for the long night ahead. The school, silent and eerie, held its secrets, and we were determined to uncover them, no matter the cost.
The night progressed slowly, each minute feeling like an eternity inside the abandoned school. We set up our makeshift camp in the old library, surrounded by bookshelves that seemed to watch our every move. The darkness around us was thick, only broken by the flashlights we carried. "Are you sure this is safe?" I asked, adjusting the camera for night recording. "I mean, this structure doesn't look stable."
"Don't worry," I replied, checking the diary once more. "We need to be here to feel the environment, to see if we can capture anything unusual."
I was busy examining the surroundings, looking for any clues that might help us understand what really happened there. "Did you hear that?" I asked, freezing in place.
A distant sound, like light footsteps, echoed down the hallway. We exchanged glances, the silence between us becoming almost unbearable. "Must be the wind," I muttered, though my voice betrayed my lack of conviction.
"Let's investigate," I suggested, grabbing my flashlight and leading the way. We followed the sound, which seemed to move through the school, guiding us like a macabre whisper.
The hallways were even darker than the library, and every closed door seemed to hide terrible secrets. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the silence, as if something had fallen. "What was that?" I whispered, clutching Emily's arm.
"Let's find out," I replied, trying to stay calm.
I approached a classroom where the door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open slowly, revealing a desolate scene, overturned desks, scattered books, and in the center of the room, an old film projector had fallen. "Someone's been here recently," Emily observed, noting the disturbed dust. "But who?"
While investigating the room, I found an old film reel. "Look at this," I said, picking up the reel. "We can use the projector to see what's on it."
Back in the library, we set up the projector and began playing the film on the wall. The images were grainy, but showed students at the school and various everyday activities. However, at a certain point, the footage changed. A dark figure appeared, just a blur in the shadows, but clearly watching the students. "What is that?" Mark asked, moving closer to the wall for a better look. "It must be him," Jessica whispered. "The shadow." Suddenly, the film stopped, the image frozen on the shadowy figure. A sense of dread washed over us. It was as if the very atmosphere had changed, becoming more oppressive. "We have to keep going," I said, determined. "There's more here. We need to find more reels, more diaries."
The night continued, each discovery bringing more questions than answers. And as we explored, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. The shadow wasn't just a legend. Something or someone was really there. And it didn't want us uncovering its secret.
The tension in the air was palpable as the night wore on. We continued to explore the dark hallways of the school, determined to uncover more about the shadow. The reels and diaries we had found so far only deepened the mystery, but also the feeling that we were being watched. I was examining an old classroom when I found another diary hidden under a loose floorboard. "Here it is," I said, with a mix of excitement and fear. Another piece of the puzzle.
I took the diary and began reading aloud. The pages detailed the last weeks of a teacher's life, who also reported terrifying encounters with a shadowy figure. The descriptions were vivid, and each page seemed to pulse with the fear she felt. "This is getting darker," Mark commented, looking around warily. "It's like this school is a magnet for bad things."
As they read, a metallic sound echoed down the hallway, making us freeze in place. "What was that?" Jessica asked, her voice trembling. "Let's check it out," I replied, though I was scared. We followed the sound to the art room, where we found a metal cabinet open, its doors swinging gently. "There's something here," I said, pointing to a series of old photos scattered on the floor. The images showed students and teachers at the school, but in some of them, a dark figure could be seen in the background, always out of focus, always watching.
"He was here all along," I whispered, horrified. "The shadow was always here."
Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing our flashlight. In the dark, we heard whispers, words incomprehensible, seeming to come from all sides. I grabbed Mark's hand, trying to stay calm. "We need to get out of here," I said, my voice firm despite the fear. "We need to leave now."
We ran back to the library, where we managed to relight our flashlight. Feeling of relief was brief, as we realized we were locked in. The doors, which had been open before, were now firmly shut. "How is this possible?" I asked, trying to force the door without success.
"They don't want us to leave," I said, looking around in fear. "We're trapped here with him."
In the midst of despair, I found a final entry in the teacher's diary. She described a ritual performed by the shadow, something he believed gave him power over the school. "This is it," I said, with new determination. "If we destroy whatever he used for the ritual, maybe we can end this."
We followed the diary's instructions, which led us to the school's basement. There, in a hidden room, we found a macabre altar, covered in symbols and disturbing objects. Emily, with trembling hands, began to destroy the altar, throwing the objects to the floor and breaking everything she could. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed through the basement, a sound that seemed to come from the depths of hell. The shadowy figure of the shadow appeared, his eyes glowing with hatred. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was a deadly whisper. "This is my domain."
But I didn't stop. With one final blow, I destroyed the altar, and the shadow's figure began to dissipate, like smoke in the wind. The screams ceased, and silence fell over the school. "We did it," Mark said, incredulous. "We stopped him."
With the ritual destroyed, the doors opened, and we were able to leave the school. The dawn light bathed the school, which now seemed less threatening, as if a weight had been lifted.
Back at the local cafe, we were exhausted but relieved. We had faced terror and emerged victorious. The legend of the shadow, which had haunted Rivertown for decades, was finally unmasked. "Will anyone believe us?" Mark asked, sipping his coffee.
"Maybe not," I replied with a tired smile. "But we have the evidence. Reels, the diaries, the photos. The truth is there for anyone who wants to see it."
I looked out the window. The school in the distance, now just an abandoned building, no longer echoing with the terror it once held. "I think we did something good here," I said. "We brought peace to those who suffered."
"I agree," I said. "And maybe, just maybe, we can prevent something like this from happening again."
With that, we parted ways, each returning to our lives, but carrying with us the scars and lessons of that terrible night. The legend of the shadow might be over, but the stories of Rivertown would continue, waiting for those braves enough to uncover them.